welcome back to the Shivering Mouse. I am so excited to have you back here today, and today we're going to talk about another day in Trim Healthy Mama. And so here I am sitting on a giant yoga ball. The dogs are wrestling behind me because they are bored, and it's a beautiful sunny but terribly cold day outside, so I thought what better time than to update. The next chapter I went over in the book, I'm going to drink this, and please ignore the monsters behind me. They're actually angels, but they sound really scary. The next chapter is chapter 3. We meet Raw Green Colleen. You find throughout the chapter that Colleen's diet is generally kind of, it's vegan, but it's also a raw food diet, so she does a lot of juicing and dehydrating, and when she first starts the diet, she feels super excited about it. She feels great, and that's largely because of getting rid of all of the unhealthy processed foods she's been... Hush! Goodness. Unhealthy processed foods she's been eating, and so it feels really great at first, but the longer she does it, the more she struggles with keeping her energy levels up. Her skin starts aging much more quickly than she otherwise would expect it to, and eventually she finds that her children and herself are starting to have dental issues, as though they're eating tons and tons of sugar. The doctors even ask her if she's allowing her baby to sleep with a bottle in his mouth, when really she's just breastfeeding him. The problems in this come from a protein deficiency that occurs simply because she's not getting enough animal proteins, which are a much faster, easier source of protein. Some people are successful getting enough protein with a vegan-only diet, but the book points out that a lot of people really do struggle with that. The purpose of this chapter is to point out that, like fat and carbs, how they are not forbidden in Trim Healthy Mama, we find that meat and dairy are also included, and welcome inclusions, as long as you're watching, keeping your fat and your carbohydrates separate, which really is more of an issue with dairy than it is with meat, just because of lactose. But you'll find later they encourage a lot of fermented dairy products like kefir, and that helps, for goodness sake, that helps break down some of the sugars the same way it does in like kombucha. So that helps these products have a much lower sugar content. Also, things like cheese and sometimes yogurt have a little bit lower of carbohydrates as well, and so this can help prevent blood sugar spikes. Where most yogurt you're going to get in the store still is pretty high in carbohydrates, just because they add sugar and flavors to it. But the book is a gold mine of recipes and teaches you better ways how to manage all of this balance. And so we leave Raw Green Colleen behind. Now, Colleen is one of the few introductory, characters that are fictional characters switching to Trim Healthy Mama that I find I don't relate to at all. I don't feel sustained by eating a diet that's mostly liquid. I do drink a lot of bone broth, but I've never had the desire to put meat behind me. I did try it for a little while, and it's one of the many diets in which I've lost about 20 pounds and then gained it right back or plateaued. The biggest problem for me with this style of diet is the amount of legumes and soy needed to meet your protein levels. Threw my hormones way off, and I basically ended up She-Hulk. Like, my mom had to take me aside and say, look, I don't know how your fiance's putting up with this, because you are being mean. And I was, oh God, guys, I was grumpy. It's the grumpiest I've ever been. Because you know how, I'm going to close the book and preach for a minute. So you know how people do things that just kind of slightly annoy you, and you just kind of let it go? This diet gave me a complete inability to let it go. Like, my else game was not together. Every single thing that even slightly annoyed me, I not only had to say something about it, but I had to give a list of reasons why it was a horrible thing to do, it was a personal attack, and that person was terrible for doing it. Even if it was something little, like dropping something on the floor, I was a rage ball. It was horrible. So, again, Trim Healthy Mama, you don't lose weight as quickly as you might on some other diets, but isn't it worth it if, people are safe to be in the same room as you without risk of, their lives? They're not taking their life in their hand to be around you. So, I mean, it was almost to that point, guys. I managed to pull that diet off for several months, but it was, I was so grumpy. And again, for a 20-pound weight loss, when you hit a very stubborn plateau, it is not worth that level of grumpiness. I was essentially, I almost said I basically turned into a badger, but since I'm from Michigan, let's just go ahead and call it, I pretty much turned into a wolverine. Like, if you've ever seen one of them at the zoo, if there's even like a stick in their enclosure in the wrong spot, they do everything in their tiny little rodent power to kill that stick. And I was killing stuff, guys. I mean, I was crazy angry all the time. So you hear a lot of jokes online and stuff about soy boys and how soy can change your behavior and it makes some people more effeminate than they would naturally be. For me, as someone who's already a girl, already has a lot of estrogen, already pretty feminine, like, I'm pretty proud to be pretty girly, but I'm like a tough girly, you know? But like I like to wear girly frilly dresses and stuff, but I also haul wood for the wood stove and stuff like that. So, you know, I'm a tough girly. And I'm proud of being girly, but that extra estrogen from the soy made me terrifying girly. Like, every premenstrual syndrome stereotype that exists, I was the manifestation of that, but not just for 4 or 5 days. No, y'all. We're talking about months, and it was terrible. It's amazing that my husband and I ended up getting married at all, because he put up with some stuff. I was a grouch. And usually I don't reach that level of grumpiness unless I've gone a couple days without some solid sleep. That messes me up pretty bad too. But this was next level. So as far as raw green Colleen goes in this chapter of the book, hers is probably the diet that I've had the least desire to ever you know. And so to me, it was interesting because you hear about that kind of raw green diet being kind of this ideal of health, and so to hear some of the ramifications that come from year after year after year. Oh, I think they're eating the firewood again. Year after year after year of eating that way and how it can become a problem. I was interested in that because you don't hear about that side of things that often. So many times with narratives, we get the half that is convenient at the time, and then we don't hear any more about it later. Come here, Bailey. But I'm going to go rescue the firewood. That wraps up chapter 3. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I will be back with you soon for chapter 4. You have a wonderful day.